this very moment. You are trapped inside a cage, and the strangest part is, you have no idea it is even there. It is a cage with only 3 walls, 3 directions, length, width, and depth. Think about it for a second. You can move forward and back. You can move left and right. You can move up and down. And that is it. That is your whole world. Everything you have ever seen, everything you have ever touched, every place you have ever been, all of it happened inside those 3 directions. And your mind cannot even picture anything beyond them. That is our limit. That is our cage. But tonight, we are going to break out of it. Tonight, I am going to take you, your body, your whole existence, and walk you up a staircase of dimensions. First, we are going to drag you all the way down to a dark point called the 0th dimension, a place so empty that you simply cease to exist. And then, from there, we are going to climb, one step at a time, through the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, then up into the 4th, the 5th, and further still, all the way up toward the 10th. And I promise you, by the time we get near the top, the human mind more or less gives up. And this will not be a gentle climb, because at every single step, something about your body is going to change. On one rung, you will become a thin line. On another, a flat drawing on a sheet of paper. On another, an enormous worm stretched out through time itself. On another, a whole forest of countless lives. And near the very top, your body vanishes completely, and you become nothing but a piece of pure information. Now, there is one simple idea that will guide our entire climb, so hold on to it. Each new dimension is just one new direction, a direction so different from all the ones before it that it opens up something the last one could never reach. That is the whole staircase, every step, one new direction, one new world. But before we start, I have to be honest with you about something, because it matters. The first part of this journey, from the 0th dimension up to the 4th, is real, solid, verified science. But once we climb past the 4th, we are going to step off the ground of hard science and into something else. A kind of imagination, a tool we will use to think about things we can never actually see. And then, right near the top, we will come back to real science one more time, to what physics genuinely says about our universe. And every single time we cross one of those lines, from science into imagination and back again, I am going to stop and tell you exactly where we are standing. I am never going to hand you a daydream and call it a fact. And before we begin, one small thing. I have noticed a lot of you come back for these journeys, but have not actually subscribed yet. If you would like to keep exploring the strange and beautiful edges of reality with us twice a week, just tap subscribe and turn on the bell so the next one finds you. So take a deep breath and let your mind fall open, because this journey is going to change the way you see your own reality, maybe forever. Let me take you down to the very bottom of the staircase, to the place where you disappear. So before we take a single step on this staircase, we have to answer one very basic question. What even is a dimension? And I promise you, the answer is far simpler than you think. Here's the problem. The moment most people hear the word dimension, their mind fills up with the wrong pictures. Glowing portals, parallel worlds, magical realms you fall into, like in the movies. So do me a favor and set all of that aside for a moment, because the real meaning of the word is much calmer and much more beautiful than any of that. A dimension is just a direction, one free, independent direction that you can move in. That is all it is. Let me make that concrete. Imagine you are standing in a room. You can walk forward or you can walk backward. That is one direction. That is one dimension. Now, you can also step to the left or to the right. That is a second, completely different direction, a second dimension. And finally, you can crouch down toward the floor or reach up toward the ceiling. You could climb a ladder or jump. That is a third direction. A third dimension, forward and back, left and right, up and down, 3 independent directions. And that is exactly why we say we live in 3 dimensions. Every new direction you can move in that is truly different from the others is one more dimension. Nothing more mysterious than that. Now here is where it gets genuinely interesting, because humans figured out how to put numbers to these directions, how to give them a language, about 400 years ago. In the 1600s, a French thinker named René Descartes handed us one of the most useful ideas in all of mathematics. We call it the coordinate system, and it is simpler than it sounds. Think about how you would tell a friend where to find a spot in your city. You might say, go 3 blocks east, then 2 blocks north, and with just those 2 numbers, east and north, you have pinned down the exact spot. That is the whole idea. A coordinate system is just a way of using numbers to describe precisely where something is. And here is the beautiful part, the part that quietly unlocks this entire journey. The number of numbers you need to pin something down is exactly the number of dimensions it lives in. Watch how clean this is. Imagine a single straight line, like a tightrope. To describe any point on that line, how many numbers do you need? Just one. How far along the rope it is? One number, so a line is one-dimensional. Now imagine a flat sheet of paper. To describe any point on that page, one number is not enough. You need 2, how far across, and how far up. 2 numbers, so a piece of paper is 2-dimensional. And now think about the room you are sitting in. To describe any point floating in the air of that room, 2 numbers will not do it. You need 3, how far across, how far back, and how high up. 3 numbers, and that is why we say our world is 3-dimensional. It takes exactly 3 numbers to locate anything in it. So now you have it, the number of directions, the number of numbers, the number of dimensions. They are all the same thing, and there is one more small rule that makes this a true staircase. Each new direction we add is not just any direction. It is one that stands completely apart from all the ones before it, at a perfect right angle to every single one of them. A brand new way to move that the old directions could never touch. And that is the staircase we are about to climb. At every step, we will add exactly one new direction, one fresh way to move, standing at a right angle to everything that came before. And every time we add one, your whole world and your body inside it is going to transform into something you have never imagined. But to climb up, we first have to go all the way down, below one dimension, below even a single line, down to the very bottom, to a place with no directions at all, 0 dimensions, and it is, without question, the strangest and maybe the most unsettling stop on this whole journey. Because down there, at the bottom, you do not just get smaller, you disappear completely, and that is where we go next. So let us go all the way down, below the line, below everything, to the very bottom of the staircase, 0 dimensions, and I want you to brace yourself a little, because this is the strangest stop on the whole journey. Here is the clear answer, and it is worth holding on to. The 0th dimension is a single point, with no directions at all. That is it, no length, no width, no depth, nothing to move along, because there is nothing there to move through. Now let us do something uncomfortable. Let us take your body and let us press it down into the 0th dimension. What is left of you? Almost nothing. Your height is gone, because height needs a direction, and there are none. Your width is gone, your depth is gone. Every measurement that ever described you has quietly vanished. Your body has no size at all anymore. All that remains is a single point, a pure mathematical dot with no dimensions to its name. And I want you to notice something strange about that dot. It is not small. Small is not the right word, because small still means something. A grain of sand is small. A speck of dust is small. Those things still have a size, just a tiny one. But this point does not have a tiny size. It has no size. Not almost none. Actually none. And that is a very different thing, and much harder for the mind to hold. Now, here is what makes this place feel like a prison. In the zeroth dimension, you cannot move, and not because something is stopping you. There is no wall, no chain, nothing holding you. You cannot move because there is nowhere to move to. Movement needs a direction. Forward, sideways, up, anything at all. And here, there are no directions, not one. So the very idea of moving becomes meaningless. It is not that you are stuck. It is that motion itself does not exist. Sit with that for a moment, because it is a strange kind of stillness. Every other prison in the universe has a shape you could push against. This one does not even have that. It is total, absolute, final confinement in a place with no room at all. But here is the part that I find genuinely haunting. In the zeroth dimension, you exist. Something is there. That point is real, in the sense that we can talk about it, we can put it in an equation, mathematicians work with it all the time. And yet, to the rest of the world, you would be nothing. You take up no space, you have no shape, you could never be measured, never be weighed, never be found by any instrument that has ever been built. So you are sitting exactly on the line between existing and not existing, present but unmeasurable, real but with nothing to show for it. There is no other place on this whole staircase quite like it. And there is one more thing worth saying about the humble point, because it is easy to dismiss it as nothing. It is not nothing. It is the seed of everything else we are about to build. Every single dimension we climb from here is made by taking this point and doing one simple thing to it, dragging it in a new direction. Think about that for a second. Take a point and drag it, and it leaves behind a line. Take that line and drag it sideways, and it sweeps out a flat sheet. Take that sheet and drag it upward, and it fills out a solid. Every step up the staircase is the same move, over and over again. Pull the last thing you made in a brand new direction, and something richer appears. So this empty little dot, with no size and no directions, is not just the bottom of the staircase. It is the raw material for every single step above it. Everything you have ever known, your body, this room, the stars, all of it is what you get when you take a point and drag it in enough directions. So that is the first rung, and the clear answer to keep in your pocket. 0 dimensions is a point with no directions at all. And now, let us take that point and do exactly what we just described. Let us drag it, let us give it one direction, just one, and see what you become. Because what happens next is a real world with a real shape. And it is also a place where the smallest obstacle becomes the end of your entire universe. That is where we go next. So let us take that point and drag it, one pull in one direction. And just like that, you climb the first step of the staircase. Here is the clear answer for this rung. The first dimension is length. It is a single direction, and what it does is connect points into a line. Think about what that means. Down in the 0th dimension, you were one lonely dot, and there was nothing else. No way to reach anything. But now, with one direction, all those separate points can be strung together, one after another, into something continuous. A line. That is what a dimension really does for you. It gives you a way to reach what you could not reach before. And what happens to your body? You are no longer a point, you have become a line, a thin, stretched out thread of a thing, with a length and nothing else. No thickness, no height, just extension running in one direction. And now, for the first time on this journey, you can move. That is the gift of the first dimension. You have a direction, so you can travel, but only along that one line, and only in 2 ways, forward or backward. That is your entire menu of choices. You cannot turn left, because there is no left. You cannot look up, because up does not exist. In your world, the words sideways and above are not just impossible. They are meaningless, they describe nothing at all. And here is where this world turns genuinely frightening. Let me show you. Imagine you are moving forward along your line, and suddenly there is something in your way. Another creature, or a rock, or anything at all, sitting on the line directly ahead of you. Now, in our world, that is barely an inconvenience. If something is in your path, you step around it. You walk to the side, you climb over it, you duck underneath. You have so many ways out that you do not even think about it. Your body just solves the problem without asking your permission. But in the first dimension, you have none of those. There is no side to step to. There is no over and no under. There is only forward, and the thing is blocking forward. So you stop, and that is it. You are stopped forever. Take a second and really feel how absolute that is. In your world, a wall is an obstacle. In the first dimension, a wall is the end of everything, not the end of your path, the end of your accessible universe. Everything beyond that one object is now completely unreachable for the rest of your existence. It might as well not exist at all. So a creature living on a line is not just limited, it lives in a universe where any single thing in the way is a final, permanent border. One pebble and half of reality is gone forever. And I want you to notice something here, because it is going to matter enormously later on. That barrier is only absolute if you are stuck inside the line. If you or I came along, in our three-dimensional world, we could reach right down and lift that obstacle away. We could pluck it off the line without any effort at all. To the creature on the line, that would look like a miracle. An immovable, universe-ending wall, suddenly gone, vanished, removed by nothing it could see or understand. Hold on to that thought. What is an impossible barrier to a creature in a lower dimension is barely anything at all to a creature standing one step above it. That idea is going to come back, and when it does, it is going to be about you. So that is the first rung. And here is the answer to carry with you. One dimension is length, one direction, connecting points into a line, and a world where anything in your way is the end of your universe. Now let us take that line and let us drag it again. Not forward, because that just makes a longer line. This time, we pull it sideways into a brand new direction, one that never existed before. And when we do, something remarkable happens. A whole flat world opens up, a world you can actually picture because it looks like a sketch on a sheet of paper. And the creatures who live there see their world in a way that will genuinely surprise you. That is where we go next. So we drag the line sideways into a direction that never existed before, and a whole flat world unfolds. Here is the clear answer for this rung. The second dimension is width, and what it does is connect lines into a flat sheet. Your body has changed again. You are no longer a thread. You are now a sketch on a page. Perfectly flat, with a length and a width, but absolutely no thickness. Think of a shape inked onto a sheet of paper. That is you now. And you have gained something real. A second way to move, forward and back, and now also left and right. Which means if something blocks your path, you can finally go around it. That universe-ending pebble from the first dimension is now just a small annoyance you walk past. One new direction, and a wall becomes a detour. But the truly fascinating thing about the flat world is not how you move. It is how you see, and this is where it gets strange. Back in 1884, a schoolmaster named Edwin Abbott wrote a short book called Flatland, imagining exactly this kind of world, and he worked out a rule that holds true everywhere on this staircase. So learn it now, because the next time we use it, it is going to be about you. The rule is this: every creature sees its world one dimension lower than the world it actually lives in. Let me show you what that means. Picture a circle drawn on a piece of paper. Now, if a flat creature living on that paper looks at the circle, does it see a round shape? It does not, it cannot. And here is a way to prove it to yourself right now with something on your table. Take a coin and lay it flat on the table. Now lower your head slowly until your eye is exactly level with the tabletop, perfectly level, so you are looking straight across the surface. What do you see? Not a circle, you see a thin line. The roundness is completely gone. That is exactly what a flat creature sees all the time for its entire life. Every object in its world, no matter what shape it is, appears as a line. A square looks like a line, a triangle looks like a line, a circle looks like a line. Its whole reality is nothing but lines of different lengths. So how does anything in that world ever tell what it is looking at? It has to work for it. It has to travel around the object, feel its way along the edges, and watch how the line changes as it moves. Only by piecing all of that together can it work out what shape is in front of it. Imagine identifying everything in your life that way, one edge at a time. And now we come to the part I really want you to hold on to, because it is the heart of this whole journey. Imagine one of these flat creatures builds itself a house, 4 walls drawn as a square around itself. To everyone in that flat world, it is now perfectly safe. Nobody can see inside, nobody can reach it. Those 4 lines are an impenetrable fortress. There is no possible way in. But now think about us. We are 3-dimensional, looking down at that sheet of paper from above. And what do we see? Everything, all at once, all 4 walls, and the creature sitting inside them, plain as anything. Its fortress does not block us even slightly, because we are not looking through the walls. We are looking over them, from a direction it does not have. And here is the astonishing part. From up here, we could lower a single finger and touch that creature, reach right into its sealed house without breaking a single wall. Think about how that would feel from the inside. Its home was sealed. Nothing could get in, and then something appeared inside the room, out of nowhere, from no direction at all. It would look like magic, a miracle, a violation of every law it knows. But there was no magic, we just used a direction it cannot imagine. So hold this tightly. What is a locked box to a creature in a lower dimension is an open box to a creature 1 step above. Because now it is our turn. Next, we step into our own world, the 3rd dimension, the one you are sitting in right now. And you might think that here, at last, we see everything clearly. But the truth is, we are living inside the very same illusion, and that is where we go next. So we drag that flat sheet upward, into one more brand new direction, and we arrive home. Here is the clear answer for this rung. The 3rd dimension is depth, and what it does is connect flat sheets into a solid. Stack up enough sheets of paper and you get a book. Stack enough flat layers and you get a body, a chair, a mountain, a star. This is the world you are sitting in right now. But before we look at what we cannot see here, there is a wonderful question worth asking. Out of all the numbers it could have been, why does our universe have exactly 3? Why not 2? Why not 7? It feels almost arbitrary, like the universe just happened to pick a number. It is not arbitrary at all. And about 100 years ago, in 1917, a physicist named Paul Ehrenfest worked out why. And the answer is genuinely moving. And it gets worse, because the same problem strikes the very small. Atoms hold together because electrons can settle into stable arrangements around a nucleus. Add more spatial dimensions, and that stability collapses too. Atoms could not hold themselves together. Matter itself would fall apart. So think about what that means. If our universe had 4 or 5 spatial directions instead of 3, there would be no stable planets, no solar systems, no atoms, no chemistry. no stars burning steadily for billions of years, and no quiet world circling them where life could slowly get started, there would be no you. 3 is not a random number. 3 is the setting where a universe can hold itself together long enough for something to wake up inside it and start asking questions. But now, let me take that comfortable feeling away, because we are living inside the very same illusion as those flat creatures. Remember Abbott's rule: every creature sees its world one dimension lower than the one it lives in. It was easy to feel superior to the flat creature seeing only lines. So let us apply that rule to ourselves. Look at something near you, a closed box, a drawer, anything. You can see it's outside, its lid, its sides, its surface, but you cannot see what is inside it. The interior is hidden from you. Look at any solid object in your room. You are only ever seeing its outer shell. To find out what is inside, you have to break it, or open it, or cut it apart. You have never in your life seen the inside of a solid object while it stayed whole. And it is not only the insides. You cannot see the back of the screen you may be looking at. You cannot see behind you. At every moment, most of the world is hidden from you, and you have simply stopped noticing. But here is the part that genuinely unsettles me. Even the depth you are so sure about is not something you actually see. Your eyes do not receive a solid 3-dimensional world. What lands on the back of each eye is a flat image. 2 flat images, 1 per eye. That is the raw material your brain is given. Everything else, all that rich, obvious depth, is something your brain builds. It compares the small differences between what each eye sees. It reads shadows and light. It uses how things overlap and how they shift as you move. And from those clues, it constructs a convincing sense of depth and hands it to you as if it were simply out there. So the solidity you trust completely, the depth that feels more real than anything, is a reconstruction. A brilliant, seamless one, but a reconstruction. Just like the flat creature, we are receiving a lower dimensional picture and doing our best to work out what is really there. So we are not the clear-eyed ones after all. We see shells, not insides. We build our depth rather than receive it, which raises the obvious, thrilling question. If there is a creature one step above us, what would it see? Could it look inside a locked safe, the way we looked into that flat house? And what on earth would that next direction even be? That is where we go next. So we come to the 4th direction, and straight away something is different. Because you cannot point to it, length, width, depth, you can point at all 3 right now. But the 4th one, you cannot draw on a screen or aim your finger at. And yet, in physics, one thing plays this role, and it is something you have lived inside every second of your life. Here is the clear answer for this rung. The 4th dimension is time. And what it does is connect your 3-dimensional self at one moment to your 3-dimensional self at the very next moment. It is the direction that runs through all of your nows, stringing them together into a single line. Notice how that is exactly the same move we have made at every step. A line connects points, a sheet connects lines, a solid connects sheets, and time connects your solid body at one instant to your solid body at the next. Now, this is not a poetic idea, it is real physics. In 1908, a mathematician named Hermann Minkowski gave a lecture that changed how we understand reality. He argued that space and time are not 2 separate things that happen to sit alongside each other. They are woven into one single fabric. We call it spacetime. Length, width, depth, and time, all 4 stitched together into the actual structure of our universe. But it is one thing to say that, and another to picture it. So here is the way that makes it click. Think about watching a video. You experience it one frame at a time. This moment, then the next, always moving forward, never able to see what is coming. that is exactly how you experience your life. Now, think about the person editing that video. What are they looking at? The entire timeline, laid out flat across their screen. The beginning, the middle, the end, all visible at once. They can see the whole thing as a single object. They can jump anywhere in it. That is how a four-dimensional being would look at our world. Just as we hovered above that flat sheet of paper and saw the whole two-dimensional world at once, a four-dimensional being would look at our world and see all of time at once. Your entire life, from beginning to end, spread out in front of it like a timeline on a screen. And now, the strangest part of all, what happens to your body up here? You are no longer a person living moment to moment. Because time is now a real direction, your body stretches out along it. Picture an enormous, impossibly long shape, made of every version of you that has ever existed, all joined together. At one end is a newborn, taking a first breath. A little further along, a child heading off to school. Further still, the person sitting in this chair right now, listening to this, and at the far end, an old person taking a final breath. That entire stretched out shape is you, not a version of you, all of you at once. And that means in 4 dimensions, there is no past and no future. There is no flow. Your birth and your death are not separated by decades. They are 2 ends of one single object, both fully present at the same time. To a 4-dimensional being, your whole life is not a story unfolding. It is a thing sitting there, complete, that it can take in with one look. And here is where our paradox comes back around. And this time, it is about you. Remember that flat creature, sealed in its 4-walled house, and how we reached a finger in from above without breaking a single wall. Now imagine a locked safe in your room, sealed, nothing can get in. But a 4-dimensional being would not need to break it. It would simply step along time, back to a moment when that safe was standing open, take what was inside, and step away. And what would you see? You would open the safe and find it empty. Something vanished from a sealed box, from no direction at all. It would look like magic, a miracle, exactly the way our finger looked to that flat creature. So there it is, the 4th dimension is time, the direction that links each of your moments into one whole. And I have to stop here and be honest with you, because this is an important line. Everything up to this point, all 4 rungs, is solid, verified science. But the moment we take the next step, we leave that ground behind, and that is where we go next. So here is the line, and I am stopping to sketch it clearly, exactly as I promised. Everything up to now has been real, tested, accepted science. What comes next is not. From this point forward, we are going to use dimensions as a thinking tool, a way to stretch the mind around ideas we can never see or measure directly. This is not what physicists mean when they count dimensions. It is a beautiful, useful piece of imagination, and I want you to hold it as exactly that, not as fact, as a way of thinking. And when we come back to hard science later, I will tell you. So, with that said, let us climb. Here is the clear answer for this rung. In this way of thinking, the 5th dimension is the direction that connects your one timeline to a different timeline, the lives where you chose differently. Remember what you became in the 4th dimension, a long worm stretched through time, from your first breath to your last. But notice something about that shape. It was a single line, one path, one life, as if everything that ever happened to you was the only thing that could have happened. But was it? Think about your own life for a moment. Think about the decisions that turned it. The job you took or turned down, the person you spoke to or did not, the night you went out instead of staying in. Every one of those was a fork in the road, and you went one way. So this next direction asks a simple question. What about the other way? The inspiration here comes from a real idea in physics. In 1957, a young physicist named Hugh Everett proposed something startling about the quantum world. He suggested that when a quantum event could go more than one way, it does not simply pick one. Instead, reality itself splits, and every outcome happens, each in its own branch. We call it the many worlds interpretation. And I want to be careful here, because Everett's idea is a serious, respected interpretation of quantum mechanics, though not a proven one. But stretching it into a ladder of dimensions about your personal choices, that part is our imagination, not his physics. Still, as a way to think, it is gorgeous. So picture it, take your time worm, that single line of a life, and imagine that at every fork it splits. One branch goes down the road you took, another goes down the road you did not, and then each of those branches reaches its own forks and splits again, and again and again, at every moment, forever. What does your body become in this fifth dimension? It is no longer a worm, it is a tree, an enormous, endlessly branching tree, made of every life you could ever have lived. On one branch, you took the other job. On another, you moved to a different city entirely. On another, you never learned the thing that shaped everything after. Somewhere out on a distant limb is a version of you who became someone you would not recognize. And on one particular twig, in one particular corner of that vast tree, is you, sitting exactly where you are, listening to this. And here is what makes it dizzying. To a being that could see this whole fifth dimensional structure, none of those lives is more real than another. They are not alternate worlds, off in some other place. They are just directions, different ways to move through the same enormous object, the same way you can walk forward or sideways in your room. That version of you who took the other path would be, to such a being, no further away than your left hand is from your right. So think about what you have become on this rung. You are not one person with one story anymore. You are the whole forest of everyone you could have been, all standing together. But notice something about that entire tree, every single branch of it. In all those countless lives, gravity still pulls the same way. Light still travels at the same speed. Atoms still stick together exactly as they do here. Every possible version of your life is still playing by our rules, which raises the obvious next question. What if we changed the rules themselves? That is where we go next. So we keep climbing, and remember, we are still inside the thinking tool here, not hard science. Hold these next two rungs loosely. Here is the clear answer for the sixth. In this way of thinking, the sixth dimension is the direction that connects timelines which started differently. Not different choices inside your life, entirely different histories. Let me show you why that is a genuinely new direction, and not just more of the fifth. Your fifth dimensional tree was enormous, but it had one thing anchoring it. It all grew from a single seed. Every branch on it started with you, born where you were born, to the people you were born to, in the world you were born into. The branches only differ by what you did afterward. Every one of those lives began at the same starting line. But what about a life that began somewhere else entirely? A version of you born 100 years earlier, or on the other side of the world, or into a history where events you take for granted simply never happened. You cannot reach any of those by walking along your own tree, no matter how far you go, because your tree only contains lives that grew from your particular beginning. So you need a new direction, one that steps sideways, past your starting point, to a tree that grew from a different seed. That is the sixth. The fifth moves you between the choices you could have made. The sixth moves you between the beginnings you could have had. And now the seventh, which is a bigger leap still? Here is the clear answer. The seventh dimension is the direction that connects universes running on entirely different laws of physics. Because notice what has quietly held constant this whole time. In every branch, in every history, on every tree, gravity has behaved the way it does here. Light has traveled at the same speed. Atoms have stuck together the same way. All those countless lives were played on the same board with the same rules, every one of them. The seventh direction changes the board itself. Step along it and you arrive somewhere. The constants of nature are simply different. A universe where gravity is 1,000 times stronger and nothing could ever lift off the ground. A universe where light moves at another speed entirely, so cause and effect run differently. A universe where atoms cannot bond at all, so no chemistry ever happens, no molecules ever form, and nothing solid can exist anywhere. And here is where something happens to you that has not happened yet on this whole climb. Up to now, your body has been changing shape. A point, a line, a sketch, a solid, a worm, a tree, but it has always been something. In the seventh, your body cannot exist at all. Think about why. A body is not a shape you can just draw anywhere. A body is a very particular arrangement that only works when the rules cooperate. It needs atoms that hold together. It needs chemistry that lets those atoms build complicated structures. It needs time enough for all of that to assemble. Take away any one of those, and there is nothing to build with. So in a universe with different laws, where atoms might not bond at all, there is no body. Not a strange body, not a different body, none. So what is left of you here? Only the idea of you. A pattern, a piece of information that describes what you are, holding true across every possible set of rules. Not something anyone could touch or see or point at. Just a structure, an abstract shape of a self, existing wherever the rules happen to allow it, and simply not appearing where they do not. And take a moment to feel the distance we have traveled. We began with your solid, breathing body, your height, your weight, the warmth of your hands. And now, standing here, all of that is gone. The bones, the blood, the shape, all left behind on lower rungs. You have become a pure idea, unbound by any world. That is the top of the imaginative staircase. And I want to say plainly one more time, that ladder of choices, histories, and laws is a way of thinking, not a map of reality. Physicists do not count dimensions this way. But you might be wondering, if we can climb to 7, why stop? Why not 8, 9, 10? And that question takes us somewhere wonderful, because real physics does keep counting. It just counts something completely different from what we have been imagining. That is where we go next. So, let us come back down to solid ground, exactly as I promised. Everything from the 5th rung to the 7th was imagination, a way of stretching the mind. What I am about to tell you is different. This is what our deepest theories in physics actually say. And the strange thing is, real physics does say there are more dimensions than 3. It just means something completely different by that than the ladder we were climbing. Here is the clear answer. According to string theory, the extra dimensions are not new kinds of freedom, or choices, or worlds. They are tiny spatial directions, curled up so small that we can never move through them or see them, wound up at every single point in space. Let me unpack that, because it is genuinely one of the most beautiful ideas in physics. For decades, physicists have been trying to build one theory that explains everything, that finally makes gravity and the quantum world agree with each other. And the leading attempt is string theory, which suggests that the most fundamental things in existence are not particles at all, but unimaginably tiny, vibrating strings. Different vibrations give you different particles, the way different vibrations of a guitar string give you different notes. But here is the catch. When you work out the mathematics of string theory, it only holds together in a very specific number of dimensions. Not 3, not 4, 10. And in the version physicists call M theory, 11. Now, that should sound absurd. because you can look around your room right now and count exactly 3 directions. So where on earth are the other 6 or 7? And here is the answer, and it is lovely. Those extra directions are not big and open like ours. They are curled up, rolled into loops so unimaginably small that nothing we have can detect them, and nothing we do can move through them. There is a classic way to picture this, and it works perfectly. Imagine a garden hose stretched across a lawn, and you are looking at it from very far away, from the other end of the field. From that distance, what does it look like? A thin line, just length, going one way. If you were an insect crawling along it, it would seem you had only one direction available, forward or back, nothing else. But now walk right up to that hose and look closely. Suddenly you notice something you missed. There is a second direction available on that surface. An ant on the hose could not only walk along its length, it could also walk around it in a little circle and end up right back where it started. That direction was always there. It never appeared or disappeared. It was simply so small and so tightly wrapped that from a distance it was invisible. String theory says our universe is like that hose. There are the 3 big directions we know, stretched out huge and open, and then, at every single point in space, everywhere, including right where you are sitting, there are more directions, curled into loops so tiny they escape everything. And when I say tiny, I mean far beyond anything you have a feel for. These loops are thought to be so small that compared to them, a single atom is like an entire galaxy. You could never fall into one. You could never send anything down one. They are woven into the fabric of space at a scale that makes even the smallest things we know look enormous. Now let me be honest with you, in both directions. String theory is real, serious physics, worked on by some of the finest minds alive, and its mathematics is extraordinary. But it is not proven. We have no experimental evidence yet that these extra dimensions exist. It is our leading candidate for a theory of everything, and it may still turn out to be wrong. So hold this as our best current mathematics, not as confirmed fact. But here is why it matters so much for our journey. Because the extra dimensions of real physics turn out to be nothing like the ones we imagined. We climbed a staircase of choices, histories, and laws, and physics answers with something far stranger and far quieter. Not vast realms above us, tiny curled up loops, hiding inside every point of the space you are sitting in right now. And that brings us to the final and most honest part of this whole journey. Because we can write these dimensions down, we can calculate with them, we can build entire theories on them. But there is one thing we cannot do with them, no matter how clever we are, and that is where we go next. So here is the one thing we cannot do. We cannot picture them. We can write the equations. We can calculate with 10 dimensions, or 11, as comfortably as with 3. The mathematics walks straight on into territory we will never enter. But close your eyes and try to actually picture a 4th direction, a real one, standing at right angles to length and width and depth all at once, and your mind simply stops. It will not go there. It cannot. And there is a reason for that, and it is a rather touching one. Think about what your brain was actually built for. It was shaped over millions of years by a practical set of problems. Find food, notice the predator in the grass, judge whether you can make that jump. Every part of how you perceive the world was tuned for surviving in a 3-dimensional landscape. Your brain is a superb instrument for exactly one kind of world, and it is the one you are sitting in. It was never built to picture infinity or a direction curled smaller than an atom. Those things were not on the list. So when your mind refuses to imagine a higher dimension, that is not a failure on your part. That is a tool doing precisely what it was made for, and honestly telling you where its edge is. So that is the real wall at the top of this staircase. Not a wall in the universe, a wall in us. So let us come home, down the steps, one at a time, back to the small, familiar world you started in. Take a breath and look around your room. The walls are solid again. Time is flowing forward, one moment after another, the way it always has. The inside of that closed drawer is hidden from you again, and whatever sits behind your back is a small mystery once more. You are home in your three-dimensional house, but I suspect it looks a little different now, because tonight we took you down to a point where you vanished. We stretched you into a line, flattened you onto a page, rebuilt you as a solid, drew you out into a worm through time, branched you into a forest of lives, and finally dissolved you into pure information. And then we brought you back to this chair in these three directions. It is easy to look at our situation and feel small, penned into three directions, unable to see inside a closed box, living one moment at a time with no way to step out of the flow, surrounded, if physics is right, by curled up directions we will never once feel. But turn it over and look the other way. Remember why space has exactly three big directions. Add another, and orbits fall apart. Planets spiral into their stars or wander into the dark. Atoms cannot hold together, matter cannot form. In a universe with more open directions than ours, there is nothing stable enough to build anything, let alone someone to notice. So this is not a random cage we were dropped into. It is the one setting where a universe can hold together long enough to grow stars and worlds and oceans, and eventually something that opens its eyes and asks questions. Our limit is not a punishment. It is the reason we are here at all. Three directions is not a small room. It is the room where life is possible. And there is one last thing, and it might be the best part. That flat creature on its sheet of paper could never picture our world. Never, and yet here we are, penned into our own three directions, and we spent this whole journey imagining worlds we can never enter. We described them, we reasoned about them, we even did the mathematics. We could not see them, and we went anyway. That is the strange gift of being human. Not that we understand everything, because we clearly do not, but that a small creature in a small corner of a very large reality can sit in a quiet room and reach, with nothing but its mind, toward places its eyes will never take it. So the next time you notice a closed door, or a locked box, or a moment slipping past you, let yourself smile a little, because you know now that your world is deeper, stranger, and more beautiful than it looks. Thank you for climbing this staircase with me tonight. If it gave you something new to turn over in your mind, share it with someone who loves to wonder. And if you would like to keep exploring the strange edges of reality with us, twice a week, you know what to do. Until the next journey, rest well, keep wondering, and never stop looking up.